Good morning, everyone. Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful introduction. Uh, so, my name is Dr. Dhara Sheth, and I am. Okay, just give me a moment. I'll pin myself. Yeah. So, my name is Dr. Dhara Sheth. I'm a soft skills and influence coach. But since last year, I got interested in iconography, and I have been learning it from various sources. Uh, there are a lot of things that, as a Hindu, I know since childhood. But then when you learn and research things in a proper manner, it gives structure not just to your knowledge, but there are a lot of things that you start understanding about what's true, what's false, probably, because we were not present in those eras with 2000 years ago, 3000 years ago. So what we have now, what we understand now, what has been proven, what has been found, all of that helps when to understand our roots better, to understand our culture, our traditions better. So that is how I developed interest in iconography, and based on whatever I've understood, a fraction of it I'm going to share with you in days. Uh, try my best to cover as many aspects as possible. Today we'll start with our first session, which is basics of iconography. Just give me a moment to share my PPT. Any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box during the session. Once I complete my point, I'll keep checking the chat box and answer any questions or any doubts that you have. Okay, and of course, we'll have Q&A at the end of the session. Today, we'll talk about basics of Hindu iconography. Monday, Vishnu. Tuesday, Shiva, and some basic aspects of Shakti or Parvati as well. Wednesday, we'll talk about Ganesha, and Thursday, Navgraha, and some allied deities if time permits. That is what I have planned. So before we begin, first let's talk about what is iconography. Iconography is a very recently developed branch compared to all the other branches, because earlier it was not considered to be some separate branch where you learn about icons. It was considered to be a part of architecture, and somewhere you could say archaeology also overlaps with it. If you see, there are a lot of iconography. What I learned was from sessions about temple architecture. So, but we are not going to talk about temple architecture in our FDP. We are going to talk about icons primarily. But where do we find these icons? We find them mostly in our temples, in cave temples, especially of olden era, and nowadays in modern temples. Considering history of India, North India does not have a lot of historical fragments of Hindu history remaining because of repeated invasions and invaders breaking things, destroying things. Nalanda University was completely burned. But South India does preserve a lot of temples and sculptures from almost 6th century, and a lot of idols and icons have been found while digging up archaeological sites at a lot of places. So from that, we are slowly trying to build a timeline of what the history of our religion. And although we say that our religion is ancient in terms of yugs have passed, like a lot of kalps, a lot of yugas have passed, but whatever is available to us in terms of written history, in terms of idols and sculptures, in India, it begins with Indus Valley civilization. So let's take a look at the basics first, and then we'll go to that. Iconography is the branch of art history that deals with the identification, description, and interpretation of the content of images, the subjects, the symbols, and the themes used in the art. Now, these images could be idols, it could be paintings. In Western tradition, art is classified into 5 primary forms: architecture, sculpture or icons, painting, music, and literature. So architecture, sculpture, and painting has icons, music, and literature has some written aspects in it. In earlier times, icons were not treated as a separate discipline, but rather as integral part of architecture. So what are the questions that iconography explores? So what are the defining features or visual attributes of the icon? Which deity or divine figure does it represent? When we talk about Hindu iconography, which deity is this icon associated with? Like if I say Trishul, the word that comes to your mind immediately would be Shiva. And if I say Sudarshan Chakra, you will probably visualize Vishnu or Krishna's form in your mind. From which historical period does the icon originate? Now, a specific idol or a painting belongs to which era? Ma'am, this is more an English FDP because there were a lot of people here who would not be knowing Hindi. So they will not be able to understand the Hindi part of it. So I take your suggestion into consideration, but I would not be able to make it bilingual. However, if you have any questions or doubts, you could ask me at some point, and whatever the point is, I'll just repeat it in Hindi for you. From which historical period does the icon originate, and which dynasty or patronage of kings was responsible for its creation? These are the questions that iconography answers. Now, if we talk about history of icons as such overall in the world, the earliest references of icons were found in almost 25,000 to 30,000 years ago, which is considered to be the prehistoric era. If you read the last line of the slide, it's just a small note that prehistoric and historic eras are divided by history before writing, the Stone Age, the Carving Age, the Tools Age, and the history after writing, where written records are available, even if it is manuscripts on palm leaves. So that is almost around 3200 BCE. Written records are available from there. The advent of writing started. So everything before that is called prehistoric era. There are also a lot of Neolithic, Mesolithic kind of separations in that, but we will not go into that. So almost 25,000 to 30,000 years ago, the earliest icons that are found, one of them is Venus of Willendorf, and 11.1 centimeter tall, like almost 4.5 inch tall statuette unearthed in Lower Austria, and it is made of oolitic limestone, red ochre, and considering the proportions and the way she has been shaped, it's a mother goddess, and mostly it could be a symbol of fertility. In prehistoric era, we find that there is a lot of importance on mother goddess figures overall in different civilizations of the world. Another one is Lady of Brassempoy, discovered in the cave in Brassempoy, France. Approximately 25,000 years old, from Upper Paleolithic period, prehistoric era, and it is carved from mammoth ivory. One of the earliest realistic portrayals of human face in prehistoric art. So this was world history. In India, the earliest icons that we get are from Indus Valley civilization, a Bronze Age civilization that flourished in northwestern regions of South Asia from 3300 to 1300 BC. Now, these are approximate dates. Some people say 2500 BC, some people say 3300 BC. The mature period was 2600 to 1900 BC. This is what we studied in our school as well, Indus Valley civilization, that there were proper homes, there was a proper government kind of structure, probably considering the way common bath houses were built. There were granaries to store grains. So this is all what we have learned in our school. Like if you see, there are a lot of seals, stamps, seals which were found while unearthing the remains of Indus Valley civilization. This is the Pashupati seal, a seated figure with a horned headdress and surrounded by animals like elephant, tiger, rhinoceros, buffalo. The central human-like figure is sitting in a cross meditative position, and it is called Pashupati or Mahayogi or Proto-Shiva. Another such famous seal is the unicorn seal, a single horned creature often depicted before a ritual stand or an incense burner. So all of the seals have different descriptions. They were found in Indus Valley civilization. Some figurines and sculptures were also found. More famous among them are the dancing girl, who's holding her hands on her waist and standing, the mother goddess, and the third one is the Buddhist Christ King. Now, this was a stone figure. The way a shroud has been wrapped, it's a high possibility that it was a priest, a pujari, a Rajguru kind of person who was overseeing the rituals or religious rites. Now, these are the based on whatever we have found and the history connecting the dots, this is what we believe must have been. Okay, it is all based on approximation. Do infer to say other civilizations are older than Hindu. See, we are not going to talk about other civilizations or whether Mesopotamian or Egyptian or Greek civilizations were parallel or not. So that we will not be considering in today's or in this FDP. Indus Valley civilization also we are not going to talk about. We are going to talk more about Hindu iconography, and that comes later on. Okay. I'm coming to that in the next slide. So to understand everything that I'm going to share today and in the next 4 sessions, I want you to first understand a little bit of the dates and the history of India. Because once you start reading, there would be a lot of confusion that happens if you are not aware of this dating. So after a lot of studying, I realized that I didn't remember the history of India completely, because the way in our schools we are taught, it is very confusing. If you are already someone who's studying archaeology, history, or interested in temple architecture, I'm sure you would be knowing this, the time mentioned in your presentations is. No, it was just that I was telling you about in the world, which was the first one that was found. That I just wanted to share it as a trivia. Okay, so in key eras of early Indian history, Indus Valley civilization, the Vedic period is considered to be after that. Almost 1500 to 600, like 15th to 6th century before Christ, before Common Era, is considered to be the Vedic period. The post-Vedic period is considered to be 6th to 3rd century before Christ. So Vedic period was the time when there was a lot of nature worship. Indra, Mitra, Varuna, Vayu, all these gods were worshipped. Surya is Mitra. So these gods were worshipped. There were stories about nature, earth goddess, how Prithvi became Bhudevi, all this. Hymns, invocations to bring the god, yagnas to worship those deities, devatas. That was the Vedic period. There wasn't any idol worship, murti puja happening in that time. In the post-Vedic period, slowly things started to shift. And in the 3rd century, after Christ to 10th century is considered the Puranic period, where um, in where there was more focus on bhakti, on idol worship, murti puja, and that's why all the idols that we find are from first century and more after 6th century. So even some 3rd century, 4th century Kushan idols have been, Kushan dynasty time idols have been found. So murti puja majorly developed in the Puranic period. In Vedic period, these gods were not given that much of importance. Like Vishnu is not mentioned in Vedas as Vishnu specifically. If we consider the kings, the age of 10 Mahajanpadas, which fought and then they came to some common conclusion, that story which we hear, the fight of Aryans and Aryans, that's how it is called, but it's called the 10 Mahajanpadas which were found. That is somewhere around 5th century before Christ to 250 before Christ. That is considered to be the age of Mahajanpadas. Somewhere parallel to it, Mauryan Empire was found, Chandragupta Maurya, followed by Kushan Empire, and then Gupta Empire from 3rd century. Parallelly, in South India, Sangam age is considered to be 3rd century BC to 3rd century CE. Now, these are all approximate dates. Okay, there could be different scholars give different dates. I have tried to take the most favorite ones, the most common ones which have been cited. Pallavas, Chalukyas, and Pandya dynasties from 6th to 8th century. Chalukya dynasty is roughly from 540 to 12th century, and even in that there are 3 variations. This I want to mention because in okay, I'll remember the name when the slide comes. There are in Karnataka, in Chalukya dynasty was there, and there are a lot of temples, lot of caves which have idols, and you will find a lot of pictures and images that I share would be from there. Similarly, in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu also there are. Chola Empire was from 8th to 12th century. From 12th to 18th century, we consider it as medieval India. Now, slowly there were invasions from a lot of different places, be it Mughals, be it Europeans. And modern India is after 1857, post the first war of independence that happened in 1857. The history is considered to be that of modern India. So this is what you need to keep in mind whenever you are talking about icons, that it is from which dynasty. If you remember this much also, you will get a very fair idea of when this idol could have been made or from which place it could have been. Is this clear? Is this making sense? Okay. So this is just so that in further, when I keep on saying things, you do not get confused. This is to be remembered for Vishnu iconography, Shiva iconography, Ganesha iconography, because with every empire and period, there are changes in beliefs of people, and how, like, Ganesha initially was considered to be a naughty deity. From there, slowly the switch started happening to he started being considered someone who is actually destroys the obstacles, from creator of obstacles to destroyer of obstacles. So there is a switch in how people view gods and deities. That these periods are important for that. Okay. I will not be sharing the PPT, but please feel free to take screenshots wherever you want. Now let's come to how did image worship start? The Upanishads, which we also called Vedant, the end of Vedas, the later part where explanation of Vedas was given, approximately 7th to 4th century BCE, where Vedic period ends at that time. The term Upasana was introduced. Upasana means Up-asan, sitting near. It signifies meditative devotion. So now, For meditative devotion, icons were created to serve the purpose of upasana, to provide a tangible form, the sakar form. Earlier in Vedic era, it was more like, I wouldn't say exactly nirakar because we had deities, but the Brahman did not have any form. When it came to Upanishads and slowly the Puranic era, Brahman was given the form of Vishnu, Shiva. So there was a form given to God, and that form had to be meditated upon, to provide a tangible form through which devotees could practice upasana and connect deeply with the formless absolute. Now, whatever I say is what I have learned from various sources, and for everything you will find that the scholars also have a lot of opposing viewpoints, and whatever we learn in terms of, like, if the Bhagavad says that there's Saraswat Kalp, and since Yuga things are happening, when we try to corroborate it with archaeological history that is found, you might not be able to corroborate it. So belief is what we should have inside, but when it comes to research, there might be a different story that research tells, or there are a lot of things that probably we are not able to prove at this point. So just giving this disclaimer beforehand. During the Vedic era, there were neither temples nor idols or murtis. Worship was centered around yajnas, sacrificial rituals. Even today, if there is a drought somewhere, there would be some rich person or a group of people conducting, like performing yajnas to invoke Indra to send rains. Okay, so this was the practice that was done during Vedic era, offerings to Agni. Reverence of natural forces such as Agni, Vayu, Surya, Indra. The term first confirmed written reference that we find for image worship is in Ashtadhyayi, written by Panini. Now, Ashtadhyayi is actually Sanskrit grammar book, but there we find the term called Jivikarth Kapanne, Jivikarth, which means those who made images or murtis as a means of livelihood, but it was not for sale, but for temple use. So in that, there are 2-3 different terms given, that people who make idols, but only for temple, they do not sell it to public, versus people who make it for selling it to the public. So different terms are mentioned for that. There are also a lot of other terms mentioned related to Murti Puja, while explaining the grammar, and that is where we find the first confirmed written reference that idol worship had begun in India. We have, because we have some examples in Vedic period towards idol worship. Might be, but most scholars agree that see, forms were there, but we did not have, like, Indra's picture was not worshipped. We don't put a picture of Indra and do arti. It was rather a yajna that was done. More like focus on performing that entire yajna and giving sacrifices, whether it was ghee or grains or whatever, depending on the god or the deity it was. It marks a shift. Yeah. So this is one of the earliest textual evidences of image making as a recognized profession, suggesting the practice of crafting and worshipping icons had already begun by Panini's time, that is between 6th and 4th century before Christ. It marks a significant shift from Vedic focus on yajnas and nature worship to a more personal and symbolic form of devotion expressed through images and sculptures. Okay. Yeah. See, it was not common to worship. There are no evidences, written evidences found. Vedas do not talk about idol worship. Yeah, hymns are there to invoke God, but we do not put a photo or a statue and worship it like we do right now. Panini, now he also used words like devalak, which means a person who is engaged in the service or worship of deities. Jivika. one who earned livelihood through making or maintaining murtis. Chal, images which are movable. They can be carried in carts for processions, rath yatras, or can be used for temporary worship. Achal, images which are not movable. They are permanently installed in shrines, sanctuaries, temples. They cannot be moved. So these are also some other words which we find in Ashtadhyayi. Then there's this concept of Mool Vigraha, the main deity, and Utsav Vigraha, or the proxy deity. The difference between the two is Mool Vigraha is the primary or original image. Now here, image could refer to a photo or a sculpture. And festive or ceremonial image is the Utsav Vigraha. The Mool Vigraha is made of stone, sometimes wood or mortar. It is fixed at one place and is usually in the Garbhagruh, the innermost sanctum of the temple or the shrine. It is the main deity for daily worship and meditation. Now, Utsav Vigraha is made up of metal like bronze or Panchdhatu. So, Panchdhatu is if you do not know, it is gold, silver, copper, zinc, and iron. Now, bronze and brass are combinations of copper, zinc, and copper tin in different proportions. But Panchadhatu, when we say it is gold, silver, copper, zinc, and iron in different proportions. Utsav Vigraha were movable deities. They were carried out during festivals and processions. They were within the temple, but for ceremonies, they could leave the sanctuary. They were not in the Garbhagruh. Participation in festivals and public rituals was the purpose. So, Mool Vigraha and Utsav Vigraha. This is the meaning of these two words. Now, let's talk about construction of icons, how the icons were made. Agam are scriptural texts that provide detailed instructions on temple construction, iconography, rituals, and worship. These scriptures are called Agam. They guide how deities should be represented, how murtis should be consecrated, in which direction, in which proportion, and how temples should be designed to facilitate devotion. See, whatever has been accepted by major scholars, only that I have taken in my PPT. I do not want to share any information on which there is still controversy or which has not been accepted widely by scholars. So that is, I have not included that information. There can be opposing informations. There can be different dates that you find from different research scholars. But what I have taken is the widely accepted versions. I have not taken anything which could be, which is not accepted widely by all scholars. Okay. And that is why that is what I shared in the beginning also. Shilpa Shastra are treatises on arts and crafts, including sculpture, architecture, and icon making. They provide technical guidelines on proportions, materials, and aesthetics to ensure that icons and temples are both spiritually effective and artistically precise. Now, in this Agam and Shilpa Shastra, Vishwakarma is the deity who's called divine architect and craftsman. He is considered to be the patron of artisans, sculptors, and builders. And they say that the original designs and techniques of sacred architecture and iconography were devised by him. In Krishna's story also, it is mentioned that Dwarka was made by Vishwakarma, or if we talk about Mahabharata, then he also helped in making, I call it, the capital city for Yudhishthir, which is Ma'am or sir, we will talk about it at the end of the session. Okay. Scholars is something that is widely accepted. Indraprasth. Thank you, Sarika ji. So for Indraprasth. Murti is a sacred image or idol that represents a deity. In Hindu practice, it is not merely a sculpture, but a vehicle for divine presence, allowing devotees to focus their devotion and meditate on the deity. Pran Pratisthapna. Now see, whenever a murti is it is placed in the inner sanctum or garbhagruh, then a process or ritual needs to be followed so that you invoke the divine to come and be present in that stone or wooden idol or metal idol. That is called establishing the life force. Like the deity's presence is invoked into the image. This ritual is called Pran Pratisthapna. Even today, whenever a new temple is built, Pran Pratisthapna is done, where the divine force is invoked, the deity is invoked into the murti. Now, Ashtavid Pratima, the 8 different types of idols, which are mentioned in Bhagavad Puran and Brihad Samhita and Mansar Shilpa Sastra. There are some other variations also available, but these are the most commonly accepted ones. Shaili, idols made of stone. Darumai, idols crafted from wood. Lauhi, made of metal, like or alloys such as brass and Panchadhatu or Panchaloha. Lepya, made from earth, clay, or paste, such as sandalwood paste. Saikati, idols fashioned from sand. Lekhya, created through drawing, painting, or engraving. Manimai are carved from gems or precious stones. And Manomai are mentally visualized, like you close your eyes and you visualize the idol for meditation or worship. That is Manomai. So these are the 8 kinds of idols. Next, I just like for stone idols, which are the most common ones that we find in temple architecture. If you see in Indus Valley civilization, bearded priest king Pujari idol is made of stone. From 3rd century BC, King Ashoka times also idols of deities where we have started finding them during excavations. And process of selecting stone for idols, like how to select the stone, is given in detail in Vishnu Dharmottara Puran. Vajralepan is a process in which a plaster is made and it is used to make the stone idols stronger, or if there is a repair, then if it's broken, then Vajralepan is used to repair it. It refers to the technique of applying a hard, durable plaster over a sculpture or temple surface, even on walls of the temple, to give it a smooth, polished, and lasting finish. It increases durability. Traditional texts describe it as containing sandalwood paste, that's chandan, camphor, turmeric, and various medicinal herbs, which are ground together with milk or water, and there are various proportions given. This technique was commonly used in temple sculpture and wall reliefs to enhance durability and create fine details. Now, in characteristics, if you talk about characteristics of an icon, in Hindu iconography, each deity is identified by specific characteristics like distinctive marks, symbols, or attributes, or things that they hold in their hands or what they wear that signify their divine identity. Physical features, attributes, which is called ayudhas, the weapons, instruments, or objects that the deity holds in their hand, like Shiva's Trishul or Vishnu's Shankh. Their vehicle or their vahan, their ornaments and attire. Now, they are also called lanchanas. This word comes from Jain iconography, but nowadays, like everywhere where I have studied iconography, all these attributes are called lanchanas. even for Hindu iconography. So that is the term that you should know. When someone says lanchanas, it basically means what the ayudas, their physical features, or their distinct characteristics of the deity. Okay. Now let's talk about the most common icons or lanchanas which are present in Hindu iconography. Before that, there are three types of crown. Like the first, what we talk about is crown or headgear on a deity. There are three types of crown: Kirit Mukut, Karan Mukut, and Jata Mukut. Kirit Mukut is a conical cap which ends with an ornamental loop, and its center features a pointed knob. It bears jeweled disc either on the front or on all sides. And there are also jeweled bands present on its top and bottom. It is known as the highest of all crowns. Vishnu and Vaishnavite icons have it. Sometimes Surya Devta is also shown as wearing Kirit Mukuta. But mainly Kirit Mukuta is identified with Lord Vishnu. Current Mukut is smaller than Kirit Mukut, and it tapers to a point like a pile of plates. If you see, there are plates 1, 2, 3, 4 that way, and narrower layers. A god or a goddess who is wearing this crown, it shows like what position it is, like the number of rings shows what is the level of the position. This is Parvati, 13th century AD Parvati statue, idol, which shows her wearing a current mukut. Here also you can see the rings are there. And the third one is Jata Mukut. It's a crown of artfully plaited braids, a matted hair look. If you see here, you can see the linings of hair. It's the crown of an ascetic, worn particularly by Shiva. Jata Mukut is mostly associated with Lord Shiva, though he wears this mukut when he's not in his ascetic form, when he's not in his sannyasin form. It is adorned with sickle or skull. Sickle is or Chandra. It's like depending on how it is being perceived, or which avatar or which form or which story is being shown. And it is also worn by Brahma sometimes, where it is decorated with jewels. But majorly, Jata Mukut is associated with Lord Shiva. This is an 11th, 12th or 12th century AD idol of Jata Mukut Lokeshwara. And here is another idol where Brahma is shown to be wearing a Jata Mukut. Sorry, there was a power cut and I had to switch from my Wi-Fi to mobile net. Am I audible? Is my presentation visible? Am I clearly audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the presentation
You're
also
audible,
clearly
ma'am.
visible?
Yes.
Okay, so let's continue. So three kinds of mukut or crown or headgear. Kirit mukut associated mainly with Lord Vishnu. This is Kirit mukut. Karan mukut, which is like layers of inverted bowls put on top of each other, and Jata mukut, matted hair mukut associated mainly with Lord Shiva. Ayudhas are weapons or objects which are held in hands, and the most common ones are Akshamala. A general term for rosary or a garland of beads. Now they could be made of rudraksh, they could be made of tulsi beads, they could be made of different kinds of beads, but they all fall under the category of akshamala. Pustak, a book or manuscript, which is held in the hands of mostly Saraswati Devi and Brahmaji. He's holding Vedas or sacred scriptures. Kamandal, a ritual water vessel, is depicted in the hands of deities, sages, and ascetics. It symbolizes spiritual purity, asceticism, and elixir of life. So if you want to see images where we can see it, then here is an idol of Brahma holding a kamandal, and this second image is of a Siddha from Lower Ahobilam temple, the Narsimha Sami temples in Ahobilam, which is currently in Andhra Pradesh or Telangana. So there this image is of a Siddha, an ascetic who's holding kamandal. Padma or a lotus is regarded, it's like the first one of creation, a magic womb for the universe of gods. If you remember, there's the in Padmanabh Swami temple, the Vishnu from his Nabhi, there is lotus arising, and from that Brahmaji is born. So it also signifies the creation of the world. It is also associated with longevity, fertility, wealth, and knowledge, depending on which deity's hands it is. In Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, 10th shlok says that one who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus is untouched by water. So lotus grows in a combination of water and mud. Kichad mein ugta hai kamal. So, but it is still beautiful and untouched by the sins, by the mud. So that is why it is considered to be a symbol of purity also. Shankh represents the cosmic sound, the divine authority and purity. It is used as a war trumpet and is used to scare the soldiers of the other side and to show the authority of the person who's blowing the shell, blowing the conch shell, like in Mahabharata. And in Hindu rituals, in temples, even when some people do daily worship every day at their homes, they blow conch during Aarti and Yagna ceremonies for ritual purification. These are some images of conches from 11th, 12th century carved conches, which are also called Vamavarta Shankha from Pala period. The leftmost one, this one, is an image of Vishnu and Lakshmi carved on it. In Mahabharata, 6 divine shankhs were mentioned. Krishna blew, Panchajanya, Arjun or Dhananjay's Devadatta, Bhim, Vrikodar. His conch was called Pondra. Yudhishthir's conch was Anant Vijay, Nakul and Sahadev blew Sughosh and Manipushpak respectively. This has been mentioned in first chapter, verses 15 and 16 of Bhagavad Gita. So just some trivia associated with that. My voice is not clear. Or is it clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am, it is clear.
Okay, thank you. So if you see, I tried to arrange it in a way: Padma, Shankha, Gada symbolizes sovereignty and immense strength, associated with Hanumanji in later stages, but mainly with Vishnu. The Gada's addition to figures like Hanuman became more prominent between 12th and 17th century. Earlier, it was always associated with Vishnu Bhagwan. with influences from the Bhakti movement and wrestling traditions, the Akhadas. Okay, so here, this is an image of Hanumanji holding Gada, and while he is confronting Ravan in his Mahasabha at Lanka, Chintal Venkat Ramana Swami Temple, Tadipatri in Anantapur district of Andhra Pradesh has this wall carving. This is another picture where you can see him holding his Gada in his hand. Chakra has always been associated mainly with Vishnu, its symbol of dharma, which rotates and spins in its all direction. It also symbolizes the cycle of sansara, is repeated birth and then death and then birth again. It is a weapon held by Vishnu whose speed is faster than mind. It is faster than the speed of the thoughts in your mind. So you can see here Sudarshan Chakra. On his other hand, you can also see a Gada that is holding, and below, if you see, he is holding a conch shell or shank. It's a 10th, 11th century idol of Lord Vishnu. Bijapurak is a fruit which resembles the citron fruit, known as Bijora, Bigpur, Mathulang, Madifalam, Mauling, Mahalung. Now, depending on which state of India you reside in, it would be having a different name. This also, mainly fertility deities are shown holding Bij Purak. And sometimes Vishnu Bhagwan has also been shown holding it, because it's believed that he is the one from where everything arises. It signifies divinity's power, prosperity, fertility, and ability to grant wishes. In Ganpati's hand also, it was believed that there was Bij Purak, which later became modified to Modak or Laddus. But initially, it was a Bij Purak. That is what we can see in previous idols of Ganpati. If in North India, this fruit is especially available on days previous to Chhat Puja, because Bijoru has to be offered to Chhat Maiya in that. So I have seen that on those days. Like on 5th day after Diwali, you will be able to find it in markets where Chhat Puja, where there are people performing Chhat Puja, you will be able to see it. It's somewhere between, it's like an oversized lemon with a little bit of mausambi look, sweet lime look inside it. And its taste is also somewhere between a lemon and a sweet lime. Pash or noose. It has threads that are intertwined. 3 bonds that tie us to rebirth: avidya, ignorance; karma, that is action; and vasana, like habit patterns of whatever attractions you have. It also means Pash also symbolizes that you tie yourself with dharma. You tie yourself to the constraints that are given, avoid all the obstacles on your enlightenment. So these are the 2 symbolic meanings of Pash. Ankush, which I see very commonly in Ganpati's hands during Ganesh Puja. Like if you see, mostly nowadays he's shown holding Pash in both hands. Ankush in both hands. It symbolizes the deity's power to direct the devotees towards the right path, away from the destructions. It encourages followers to control their impulses and focus on self-discipline and moral conduct. Dhanush Ban, most commonly seen in hands of Lord Ram, Lord Vishnu also, sometimes Lord Shiva also, he also had Pinak. So Lord Ram, his bow is Kodand and Sharang. Lord Shiva's bow is called Pinak, Arjun's Kamdev. In Kamdev's hand also, we find a bow in the story when uh, he sends an arrow towards Shivji, trying to break his penance so that he could marry Parvati, have a child, and save the world. In hands of Veer Lakshmi also, bow is found, and all of them signify different meanings according to in which deity's hand it is. But mostly it's the chief weapon of war, and um, like it's so important in a war because Indian treatises on war are also called Dhanush Vidya. So it is made of wood or horn or metal. Vajra, the thunderbolt weapon of Indra. Although nowadays it is depicted in serials as a vertebral column and then ribs coming out from it, actually Vajra is depicted like this, representing the divine power, strength, and protection, and it was used to defeat demons, Rakshasa like Vritra. Now, this lower image, what you see is what I have taken from like when I was attending a session and learning. This person had access, like had someone in archaeology departments, and that is why they could get access to this Vajra. It's an ancient Vajra. Nowadays, of course, you can buy it, but this is something that is ancient. So this is how it actually looks like. Just to show you. Okay. Agni, it's a weapon of war used for making offerings like ghee, havan, symbolizes purity and Christianity, and it is also sometimes seen in hands of Lord Shiva. Now, these are the common symbols associated with Shiva. Khadag, Damru, Ghant, Trishul, Khetak, and Kapal Patra. This is the severed head of a demon that the Bhairav is holding. Now, this is an idol from, like the picture of an idol from National Museum of Nepal. It shows an image of Bhairav. This is not Shiva, this is Bhairav. The god is standing on double lotus base and a demonic figure. The multi-armed image is garlanded by human heads and is holding usual attributes like Skalka, Damru, Ghant, sword, trident, and shield. Now let's take a look at what each of these attributes mean. Khadag or a sword symbolizes divine power, justice, and transformation, representing the destruction of ignorance and evil to achieve spiritual liberation. Damru, a small hourglass-shaped drum associated with Lord Shiva usually. It symbolizes the cosmic sound of creation, Nad, and Tandav dance that brings forth and dissolves the universe, because Shiva has been given the name of destroyer. If you go to Shiv Puran, he's also the creator. Like whichever the Shaivites, if the Shaivite stories also give him the position that he's the creator, he's Anadi Anand, the pillar that was there before the creation of the universe and that will be there after the creation. Universe is destroyed. So fictional stories have different beginning and end. Shaiva stories have different beginning and end. Due respect to all the stories which have arisen, especially after the Puranic period. Okay, so whosoever you believe in is important. When it comes to belief, there's like if you start putting research in your belief, then it becomes a problem. That has been my personal experience. Ghanta, bell symbolizes the spiritual invocation of these deities. Voice is not clear.
No, ma'am. Voice is not clear. Cracking your voice.
Okay. PPT is clear.
Yes, ma'am. PPT is visible.
Okay. So, let me explain the slide again. Khadag or sword symbolizes divine power. Vibration is there in the voice. I think that's because of internet. If you can see, there's constant light flickering. There's power cut happening and switching and switch off going on. Maybe that is affecting it. Okay, so Damru is where I stopped, and next is Khant. Let me complete this, and if there are any doubts, you can ask me at the end. I'll repeat it for you. The bell symbolizes the spiritual invocation of deities, the expression of negative forces, and the connection to divine. Trishul or trident is a significant.
Participants, I think there is some network issue from resource person. So please stay connected. I think she will join again. Yes, Tara ma'am. You can turn off your camera, ma'am.
I'll do that.
The voice is okay. Okay.
Okay. Is my voice better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So next, this was the previous slide in case someone missed it out. I talked about Khadag, the sword, Damru, that symbolizes cosmic creation, Nath, and Tandav. Because Shiva is given usually the position of destroyer, and Ghanta, that symbolizes the spiritual invocation of deities. Uh, it's believed that when you go in a temple during during the bell Ghantanad, then you go in, you invoke the deity, you awaken the deity, you do your rituals, puja offering, and then you come back. While coming out, you should not do that. Otherwise, all the positivity that you have gained gets dispelled. Now, this is a belief, and I do not know the source of it, but this is what I have been told since I was a child. Trishul or trident is symbolizes usually associated with Shiva and represents the three aspects: creation, preservation, destruction. It also symbolizes three gun: sattva gun, rajo, tamas gun, rajo gun, and control of time. Hitak is dhal or a shield, which we have with a sword. It symbolizes divine protection, strength, and defense against evil. Kapal Patra or a skull cup is usually in the hands of deities associated with destruction, transformation, and liberation, particularly in Shaiva and Shakta traditions. Lastly, Khatwang, a ritual staff topped with human skull. Now, there's a staff, there's a rod, and on it, there could be two, three, four, or just one human skull. It represents impermanence, dissolution of ego, and transcendence of death. Usually shown in the hands of Bhairav and Chamunda, the Chamunda avatar of incarnation of Shakti. Along with this ayuds, all the deities also have their specific vahan. For example, Vishnu is associated with Garuda. Shiva has Nandi or Bull. Durga is usually shown on a lion, sometimes on a tiger like The Amba is shown on a tiger, but usually Durga is shown on a lion. Sheravali is what we call her. Saraswati, often depicted with a swan or sometimes with a peacock. And all these vehicles have specific characteristics which the deity wants in them. For Shiva, Ganesha, it is Mushak or the mouse. It's a humble mouse symbolizing overcoming of fear, nervousness, and self-doubt, which is why he's called the Vignaharta. All the other deities also have, like Indra has Airavat. So present when we will discuss those deities in the upcoming sessions, we'll talk about their Vahanas. So that was the end of the session from my side. Thank you.